All right, I'd like to call this special meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Plan and Design Commission for September 9th, 2025. Okay, it's on. I will. So it is the September 9th special meeting of the Plan and Design Commission. I am calling the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Incheck.
Here.
Commissioner Fettner.
Here.
Commissioner Nanis.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Mantis.
Here.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Present.
And Chair Moore.
Also here.
We have a quorum. I'd like to recognize City Council Liaison Yumi Ross and Corporation Counsel Marcus Martinez with us tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. A lot of paper today. Okay. I just said we had a lot of paper today. That was more to myself than anything. All right. We've called the order. We've called roll. The first item is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes. The first set of minutes is from our special meeting on August 26th. Can I get a motion?
Chair,
Yes.
can I make a quick comment on those minutes, please?
Sure.
There was an email from a resident, Sandra Lurie. She asked that the minutes be amended. In that minutes, there's a part where she spoke, and in the minutes it says she used the word transient. She actually used what was the other?
Renters.
Renters. That's right.
There was a miswriting of transients versus renters
Right,
in
so,
one or two places.
Yes, staff would ask that the commission consider that amendment when making the motion. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, can we get a motion to approve the minutes with that amendment?
Move to approve the minutes with the amendment.
Okay, do I have a
Sorry.
second?
I have one other amendment.
Oh, we'll get to that. Let's do the
Seconded
approval
that.
and then we discuss. All right, any other discussion on these minutes? It sounds like Commissioner Mantis has a comment as well.
Packet page 10 of the minutes from 2 weeks ago should say that I referenced not having an updated master plan rather than not having a master plan.
And on packet page 11, line 10, says Chairman Moore said there are too many buildings in the space, and Ms. Yankee Dale said they could reduce the units to 178. I believe she stated they absolutely would not reduce the units to 178. If I'm incorrect, let me know.
Perhaps somebody else from the development team said that. Okay, with those changes added to the minutes, are the two motioners in agreement of still approving?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, okay. So all in favor of the corrected minutes?
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay, so we passed the minutes with corrections for August 26th. The next item is consideration of the Plan and Design Commission minutes from our regular meeting last week, September 2nd. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments on these minutes?
I'll be abstaining.
Okay. Right, because you were not there. Sorry. All right, we have one abstention. Any other comments on these minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? And one abstention. All right, thank you. All right, we're back to our scheduled business, which is public hearing PUD-2025-00041 for a special use permit in the nature of preliminary and final plan development, rezoning to RM1 and R7, a plat of re-subdivision, design review, and modifications from city code for a 240 residential unit townhome development at 1660 and 1700 Old Deerfield Road. Mr. Burhup, will you please update us with
Yes, thank
changes?
you. Thank you, Chair. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. So this is a continuation of the public hearings for the rezoning request, preliminary plat, preliminary plan development, design review for property 1700 Old Deerfield Road, which is known as and formerly the Solo Cup site. Okay, the project summary. This slide is essentially the same as it's been for several months with a few changes. The applicant reduced by 5 units the number of townhome units, so it is now down to 227. So yeah, this project again, this is for a 227 residential townhome unit development distributed in 48 assemblies. I believe the 48 also changed. At one point it was 50 and then 49. Every townhome will have a garage on the first floor. There's a club pool house amenity in the middle. The applicant also proposes changes to the Old Deerfield right-of-way for dedicated left-hand turning lanes. There's also landscaping proposed and the preservation of open space along the western and southern peripheries of the development. And also there's proposed surface on the private street parking and landscaping throughout the development. So what is the commission's consideration? The commission is making a recommendation. It is a recommendation body for the rezoning proposal, the preliminary plat of re-subdivision, and then the special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications, and then also there's the design review component. So this has been at 5 prior commission hearings. This is the 6th. On July 29th, the commission did direct findings of fact for approval. Those are in this packet as well with slight changes from 2 weeks ago. If this does proceed, the applicant will have to complete final engineering for the final plan development consideration. Next, I will move to conditions of approval. These were in the staff report, except for where it says new condition in red. I'll just summarize these briefly. The first has to do with providing the final engineering plans as appropriate for the changes on the police department property. Second has to do with complying with exterior lighting requirements in the code and providing those exhibits and specifications. The third has to do with depicting on the plan signage for the no parking zones at garage locations where appropriate to ensure emergency access. The fourth has to do with verifying the conservation easement aligns with the Lake County SMC comments. The applicant must provide a species inventory for the plantings. The applicant must depict a sidewalk within the right-of-way abutting the 1636 Old Deerfield Road restaurant, that's the Bluegrass restaurant, and that it be located within the right-of-way in a way that minimizes impact to the existing landscaping that's also located in the right-of-way. And then also that the applicant, if this does proceed, that the applicant provide additional revised exhibits that are consistent with and harmonized with the updated site plan that was included in this packet. These conditions are related to, if this does proceed, that these have to be provided with the final PUD. Other conditions, again, the first was from 2 weeks ago that gets to determination of no further remediation from the IEPA and providing that at the city at the appropriate timing. Second is a stipulation that all construction traffic shall only use the spur access road running along the railroad. The third, this was actually in the packet. This was in the packet, but it's new from 2 weeks ago, but it was in the report. And that is that a traffic study be conducted upon sufficient occupancy of the proposed development to determine if turn restrictions are needed. And if so, the development shall limit turns as approved by the city at the primary access on Old Deerfield Road, which is the one across from the police station, to right in and right out only. Then these other two, the first one there gets to the height. I neglected to put that back into my report, but that was in the presentation from 2 weeks ago, and that just gets to limiting how high the applicant can go with their buildings. Basically, those are the dimensions from the elevations that were in the packet from 2 weeks ago. And then the last one was discussed by the commission 2 weeks ago, and that all delivery traffic should only use the spur access road running along the railroad. All right. So the updated traffic impact study, this was brought up 2 weeks ago. The commission wanted the applicant's consultant to update the study to reflect the Park District's West Ridge Community Center project and the Sherwood Elementary and Red Oak Elementary school changes. The applicant did work with the Park District as well as the school district to secure that information from those changes, as well as the Park District's development. The applicant's summary was subsequently with the proposed intersection improvements and the fact that year 2031 total projected traffic volumes provide for a conservative, that is higher to say volume analysis. The area intersections are projected to operate at a good level of service and sufficient reserve capacity is available to accommodate any additional growth in the area. And then the third bullet point there, that's from the city's third-party traffic review, which we did get that on Monday, and so I reposted the packet on Monday with that comment. So the city's independent third-party reviewer, Civil Tech, did review it. They state, we, Civil Tech, have reviewed the document provided by KLOA and do not have any comments. We agree that their analysis provides for a conservative analysis and that the left turn lane additions at the old Deerfield Richfield will improve traffic operations compared to existing conditions. So that's the applicant's follow-up on the traffic study. Okay, so again, to get back, what is before the commission? So the first request before the commission is the rezoning. This exhibit here on the right is from 2 weeks ago. There was a slight alteration with the acreage. I pointed it out in my staff report. So the proposed rezoning is what's written there on the left. It's 19.07 acres to RM1 and 9.12 acres to R7. Then as to the I-Light industry zoning, the applicant proposes a strip of 0.43 acres to remain along the north boundary. As proposed, that reduces the regulatory burden for northern abutting commercial properties. Also, the applicant has increased the setback to northern abutting properties. So as part of the changes the applicant made from 2 weeks ago to today, the applicant changed the site plan with respect to the northern boundary. And so you can see I have in red on there, there's 3 red arrows. One of them's a small arrow, but there's 3 arrows and then 3 red numbers next to that. So on the left, there's a 72. Well, let me go to my desk and use my mouse. So so right here, the applicant increased the setback. So two weeks ago, it was 35 feet here and 35 feet here and 25 feet here. As the commission can tell and the public can see, the property line kind of dips there. So the applicant opened this setback up from 35 feet to 72.75 feet and proposes a second dog park, this one here on the north side. And over here, the applicant increased the 35-foot setback from 35 to 50 feet. Then the applicant has kept this setback at 25 feet. As part of the commission's consideration, the commission should consider the adequacy of this buffer area to future residential and existing commercial development and consider if any additional fencing, landscaping, or berms should be proposed. As it is right now, the applicant's landscaping plan depicts an 8-foot solid fence along the north property boundary, and then there's landscaping along the property boundary as well. Okay, open space. So the applicant increased the open space by approximately 15,000 square feet. So for the whole site, 2 weeks ago, the open common space was the applicant stipulated was 43.6%. That is now increased to 44.9%. So on the bottom, well, as part of that increase in open space, the applicant greened around the clubhouse amenity, which is in the central of the site plan. So on the bottom left there, you can see how the driveway, well, the private road went all the way around the clubhouse and swimming pool, and then there was parking as well on the private street all the way around. And if you look on the right, where it says new site plan, the applicant has removed some of those parking spaces and removed part of that private street and introduced open space and greening, essentially continuing that park all the way through those townhome assemblies and the clubhouse and swimming pool structure. Okay, density. So the applicant removed 5 units. So the proposal now sits at 227 units. The applicant, well, actually, my next plan runs through how that shuffling was done. The applicant also reduced the total parking by a net 17 spaces. Most of that was done because they eliminated the garages and the driveway parking associated with the townhomes, the 5 townhomes they eliminated, and then they put 3 on-street spaces were added back on. So the density for the site now, as of the 227 unit proposal, the density is 7.9 units per acre. And what it was when initially submitted was 8.4 units per acre. Okay, so this is the updated site plan on the right, and then the site plan from 2 weeks ago on the left. The red boxes indicate broadly what the changes were. I'll go back to my desk real quick just to point it out with the mouse. So the applicant removed an assembly here, which I believe that was 6 units, and then they removed a unit there, and they removed 1 unit on the bottom of this assembly and 1 unit on the bottom of this assembly. And then they put 2 units back there and 2 units back there. The total net on all that, again, the net change was 5 unit reduction. And then I just put a big square around the middle because, as I said previously, that's where the applicant removed the drive aisle and put the greening and landscaping. Okay, so this gets back to the modifications. No change. This is basically the same slide as it was 2 weeks ago. So the modification triggering public benefit is to height. And of course, went through that thoroughly 2 weeks ago, but to reiterate, the applicant is asking for up to 6 feet of height relief. The units the applicant proposes will vary between 3 to 6 feet above the 35 maximum height limit for the RM1 zoning district. And then the clubhouse is also higher than the 15-foot maximum accessory structure height limit. And so that triggers the need for public benefit. And so what is the public benefit? What is the applicant proposing? And this slide is also, I mean, other than maybe slight font changes, this is essentially the exact same as it was 2 weeks ago. So again, the applicant indicates they'll provide public access easement for the public to use the ingress and egress over the northeastern spur access road that runs along the railroad, and also along that 12 parking spaces for public use on that spur access road. The applicant proposes 14 off-street parking spaces for the police department's use, located at that parking lot across the street from the police department. Sharrows on Old Deerfield Road adjacent to the site and also on the spur access road to support bicycle traffic. Pedestrian crosswalks at those 3 locations, Cavell and Richfield, Winthrop and Devonshire, and Richfield and Old Deerfield intersections, and an easement for public use of the tot lot off Ridge Road. There are other modifications from the zoning code. This slide is the exact same as it was 2 weeks ago. Relief for no loading spaces, signage request, to specific requests to the landscaping requirements, the impact on that environmentally sensitive area, and then the relief to the access from commercial or industrial zoning district to a residential zoning district. And again, of course, if the commission has questions over any of this, I'm happy to go over anything again, but these have been covered in prior hearings. Then there's also the relief to the inclusionary zoning. Basically, it's a, what's the best way I can summarize this? It's to allow a different distribution of affordable units if this is a rental development. I think the bottom bullet point, the relief request that the rental units omit the 100% AMI requirement, and to request that 66% of all units to be rented at or below 60% AMI, which is lower than the required average of 65% for that income tier per code. And this is a modification for the commission's consideration. Obviously, there's other housing commission considerations, but this one is for the Plan and Design Commission to consider. And then there's the modifications from the subdivision code. Again, these were discussed 2 weeks ago. This slide has not changed. Right. Park district comments. So there were park district comments that we got late and we sent them out. And so they will be in the future public packet. And so these comments the applicant had already received and they'd already worked on. And so the park district asked for a sidewalk. Well, these were comments they had. The project should include a sidewalk on the opposite side of the road from the police station on Old Deerfield Road, connecting the new development to Ridge Road and Richfield. The applicant proposes that. There's sidewalk along Old Deerfield Road, and they propose a connection at the Richfield and Old Deerfield Road intersection. Number 2, second bullet point, move HP recommended crossing intersections improvements at Winthrop and Devonshire Court. That's a public benefit the applicant is proposing. Third bullet point, a sidewalk on the east side of Ridge Road on the side of the new development up to Devonshire Court. In this case, again, the applicant has asked for that subdivision code modification. They do not propose a sidewalk along the east side along Ridge Road. They are instead proposing a 5-foot wide path that they will have an easement for public use. And then finally, on the bottom there, create a safe, accessible crosswalk, including curb cuts and painted crossings at Devonshire Court and Ridge Road. The applicant did provide that. And then on this one, the 3 bullet points. So the first one has to do with standards for, my understanding is it has to do with standards for playground equipment for the tot lot. The commission may adopt that as a condition of approval if the commission wants. Again, that was provided for the park. That was provided from the park district specifically for, there are these guidelines on like construction and related for the playground equipment for the tot lot. Then also, Park District suggested 8-foot wide pathways and intended for bikes and walkers. Again, the applicant proposes the 5-foot wide path through the woodland area. Then finally, established a direct connection to Old Deerfield Road, and the applicant proposes several, the sidewalk, the driveway, and then that crossing that were previously mentioned. Okay, that is actually my presentation. I can take questions if there are any. This slide is a reiteration of what is before the commission and then a reiteration of the conditions.
Does anyone from the commission have any comments for staff?
I had a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead. Commissioner Fettner has a
Carl,
question.
did you mention that our traffic study and our third-party engineer reviewed their traffic study? And,
Go ahead.
and they say it was based on conservative estimates? Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct. So, yeah, Civil Tech.
The Civil Tech, right?
Yeah,
That's our
Civil Tech,
third-party.
the city's independent third-party reviewer, has reviewed their traffic study going back to the first meeting and then updated ever since. So yes, Civil Tech has reviewed every traffic study and addendum submitted by the applicant.
Okay, but do we have any, did they just provide comments? They didn't provide like their own report or counter report based on that study?
They don't. So it's, oops, sorry, I went past it. I wasn't paying attention. They don't. So, it's the applicant's project to propose what the applicant wants to do. And so the Civil Tech just reviews the assumptions, the numbers, et cetera, best practices, and notes if they have any concerns or changes, et cetera. And Civil Tech has indicated, no, that they agree. Well, I have it right there. It's quoted. Well, this is for the most recent one, obviously. Yeah, but we agree their analysis provides for a conservative analysis. And they go on to talk about how the left turn lane additions at the Old Deerfield and Richfield intersection will improve traffic operations. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Right. No, I'm just, it was that comment about that it was more of a conservative approach, but also I'm just wondering on their review, they just review it for accuracy, right? They don't review it, like, is that what their review is?
The review is a third-party professional looking on the applicant's traffic study.
And if they found reasons to contradict it, would they give
Yeah,
us
if
comments?
they have
Okay.
reasons for concern, they would state so. That's
Yeah.
what they're hired to
Right,
do.
so
They're under
they're
contract with the
Yeah.
city
Right,
of
so-
Highland Park. Yep.
Exactly. If we hired them, we take them
Yep.
for what they're worth and face
Yeah.
value, then they agree with the KLA traffic study.
Right.
That's what they said
Right,
right
and
there.
I-
That's the
right,
quote, literally the quote from
Yeah,
the
and I
latest
will-
report.
I will add to that, if I may. Not only have they reviewed the applicant's traffic studies and addendums, we as staff have also put additional questions to the applicant, additional questions that then the applicant responded to, and then we sent those to Civil Tech to review as well. And I also want to remind the commission of that because the commission had various questions over the last several meetings about different traffic-related impacts. And those questions were put as well to the applicant's consultant, which our third party reviewed as well.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay. That was my question. I had another one, but I cannot remember it now.
If I may interject, I think if you're asking, does Civil Tech go out and take the same date, sit at the same intersection?
No,
take the
right.
same date?
No, they
They're
reviewed their-
working
right,
from.
Right. No, they'll review theirs,
Yeah.
right?
It is a review. It is not a separate competing study. That's correct, Madam Chair.
Right. They're reviewing it for accuracy and going over the data.
Best
yeah.
practices, exactly. Assumptions, validity of assumptions, things like that.
Okay. Did you remember your second question?
No, but that brings me to a new question.
All
If we wanted our third-party reviewer, Civil Tech, to do our own traffic study, right, hire them to do a competing study, is that something that's been done before? Is that something other commissions have requested? Is that something that's even in the possibility?
No, we have not replicated studies as part of a plan development process, but what I can say is that post-development, there has been a requirement to have submittal of additional traffic information to be reviewed by a third party. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Somebody else had a question down here. So Vice Chair Kirch.
With the changes to the site plan, can you tell us what is the percentage of open space in the RM1 district alone?
I do not have that calculation, Vice Chair.
And then in reference to the comment in the packet from Mr. Laxner this morning, can you tell me, I think he's correct that the master plan, although it is unfortunately 25 years old, calls for this site to not be residential. Is that correct?
Zoned I, and it looks to having the site be retail and commercial.
Thank you.
That reminded me of my question.
Right,
Can
go
I,
ahead.
can I ask it?
Yes, please.
Thank you. To staff, so it's currently zone I, right, for industrial? So as of today, there can be industrial development on that property as right. Any type of industrial?
Certain types of industrial
Okay,
can be
like
by
light
right,
industrial?
but not all. No.
Okay, but nobody would have to come before us as long as they're not looking for any type of variations or any type of relief to do an industrial project there.
No, for large scale industrial development, it would have to go through a plan development process.
No matter what, we have to approve it.
There are
I mean,
numerous.
There are numerous triggers
Numerous.
for plan development.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, small
Yeah.
industrial, there might be some by right options depending on how it's configured for development, but large development, no.
Okay,
So
so nobody's
Over
going-
25,000 square feet, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, I had questions here to my right. Commissioner Mantis has a question.
Carl, can you go back to the slide with the calculations for affordable housing variations? I just wanted to get another peek at that. And then I guess the first question I had before I get into this was, with the reduction of units, is there a corresponding reduction in affordable units? That I didn't see anything in the packet.
So we received from the applicant some late minute revisions, last minute, I should say. And so, no, we did not get that request yet. So what the Housing Commission saw was the proposal as previously presented for the 35 and the 1.2 payment in lieu. That's still valid, and they can move forward with that. It does, it's been approved. And what would change there would be the payment in lieu would be less. So it would probably fall below the one. We'll recalculate that.
But it's a 15% affordable component, right? So if you lose 5 units, you lose 0.75.
We'd have to run the
Affordable
numbers through the
units?
calculator. But roughly, yeah, you'd lose a proportional amount. Yeah. So you'd have about.
And the city has
one
like
unit.
goals
A
for.
partial unit is what you'd lose. Yeah. So it would take it from 1.2 payment in lieu down to something, point something, which is a by right partial payment in lieu.
And the city has goals for how much affordable housing stock we want to have, correct? Like as a city, isn't there a
Sure.
percentage?
This meets the state act with regard to affordable housing, for which we recently submitted a plan and is available online, is a 10% minimum requirement. And for those communities that don't reach that 10%, they need to report. And we have, because we are below that 10%. Our code requires, after all bonuses, about 15-16%. And this plan complies, but for that request for that 1.2 payment in lieu, which technically now that they've reduced the number of units is probably not even a request any longer unless it's made again. So the Housing Commission has seen this. It has seen it once, and then it was revised downward to the 232. Now we're at 227. That has not been presented to them, but the 232 has, and they recommended approval in both cases.
Got it. And I guess my point too was we're playing catch up, correct, in terms of meeting our citywide affordable housing inventory. And so with reductions to affordable units coming online with new development, we're not going to catch up on those goals.
With regard to this development, I am not particularly concerned about whether we lose a partial unit, one unit or not. The 227 is achieving a greater objective of how density is put on the site. And so I believe the applicant was attempting to be responsive to that as opposed to reducing affordable units.
No, I understand. I'm thinking about the city.
Yeah, and the relief requested here does increase affordability, right? So they're looking to, there's 3 income tiers that are required by code, and they're looking to have 2/3 in the middle income tier as opposed to a third, and a third. So like I said, the Housing Commission has reviewed this, hasn't reviewed the last iteration, which dropped 5 housing units in total. So some portion of that would reduce this affordability requirement, but they did approve when it was at 240 and 232.
And so for this, the code would allow for technically like big A affordable units to be at 100% AMI or a portion of the affordable units. So
the
this
code
is more restrictive than the code would otherwise call for. Is
Yeah,
that
in
correct?
terms of affordability, this has greater affordability. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just while we're on the slide, I'm going to jump in with, so the Housing Commission approved this change.
Yes,
To
they
the one-
recommended this change.
Oh.
Along with other departures from the code that they recommend on. This item is a modification, so it is part of the PUD.
Okay.
The rest of the Housing Commission's recommendation will be included as it was in your packet to whatever your recommendation is as it's sent forward to City Council. So they benefit from both commissions on this matter. But from an inclusionary zoning point of view, this is a modification to allow that distribution to occur.
Okay.
Okay, so here they're not asking to do fewer affordable units than required, or they're not asking to do more than is required. What they're asking to do is have the income distribution for those affordable units to be as shown.
Okay. Commissioner Incheck had a question.
Yeah, thank you. On packet page 71, Michael Laxner's comments included some concerns about the noticing for the public meetings that I was hoping to get a response from the city about, just to make sure that no additional action needs to be taken to remedy that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have any concern about the notice. I believe notice was appropriate and proper in this case. Were there
Okay.
any specific issues regarding Mr. Laxner's concerns that you had, or just generally whether we have a problem with notice?
I think if I'm interpreting what he was saying in the comments, it was that the rezoning wasn't noticed the way that, or maybe it was bundled together with the PUD and it should have been noticed separately. Is that correct?
So section 150-530 requires that the PDC consider the rezoning prior to the PUD approvals. That is consideration, right? I don't interpret that as having any effect on notice. That being said, the rezoning, this is the sixth hearing. Sixth hearing. And so this commission has considered the rezoning aspect before and after and concurrently with the other zoning requests. When it's time to make a motion, one way or the other, you can certainly, if you wish to, make a motion about the rezoning aspect beforehand, I don't think you have to, because if you look at the way the findings of fact are ordered, the findings of fact consider the rezoning first, then the PUD, then the SUP, then the plan, the plat of re-subdivision, and then all that remains is the design review aspect. And so if you were to, as you always do, accept or adopt the findings of fact, in my opinion, you do that in the correct order because it is already ordered. Again, I don't think that that section has anything to do with notice. I think notice was proper in this case.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Moreover,
question.
Madam Chair, moreover, we've gone above and beyond in terms of notice, and I think it shows by the attendance of all parties, including Mr. Laxner, all the hearings. We emailed an interested party list every time we posted the packet, every time, for all the hearings. Interested parties list was so long that we had to break it up into 3 separate emails because our email servers wouldn't be able to do it. So I really don't feel as a practical matter, Marcus, as an attorney spoke as a legal matter, I don't think as a practical matter that anyone who wanted to know about this or was interested was not able to find out or know about this readily.
One last thing on this dead horse that we're beating. Notice has been actual each and every time that we've had these meetings. And so everyone who's attended has been told right when you all make the motion, the next date, the place of the hearing, and the time of the hearing. And so we have preserved notice consistently since the very beginning of this case.
All right, thank you. Any more questions from the commission for staff? Would the applicant like to come up and speak anymore?
Good evening. Again, Katie Jenke-Dale. I'm an attorney at DLA Piper who represent the Habitat Company. Per usual, staff did a great job stealing our thunder with a lot of the updates that we were going to provide tonight. So we'll try to be not be repetitive, but just add a little bit of our perspective or color to it. So as Mr. Carl provided, we did go back and review the traffic study. The issue about the schools and the community center were brought up somewhat late, but when we were here last time. So through KLOA and through city staff, we were able to connect with all 3 of those parties, the 2 schools and the community center, then revisit our traffic study and the counts. And in a couple of minutes, I'll have Michael come up and relay those conclusions, which have not changed and as noted, have been reviewed and peer reviewed by Civil Tech, and they've concurred with them. Which I will also add, in addition to the experience here in Highland Park, is typical across almost universally, that the applicant would prepare a traffic study that then gets peer reviewed. And there's a lot of back and forth and questions and clarifications and work that the traffic consultant does in response to that iterative process. We also increased the north setback. I would put this one with the enhanced open space. When we were here last time and trying to figure out what are you looking for, what's the number, what's the magic number, we didn't hear one very clearly, or we didn't hear one that was acceptable. And thank you for correcting the meeting minutes on that point. So we went back and put to Terry yet again for I think the 4th time. Look at this site plan again and be thoughtful about it. Where can we remove density while addressing other comments that we received? So one of those was this concern, and we understood it, that the I-zone strip could create an issue. We want that 50-foot separation. And so we challenged him to sharpen his pencils and figure out a way to increase that to not only alleviate any burden on those neighbors to the north in the future if they were to redevelop, to allow them to develop to their property line, but to kind of respect the intent of that setback. So that was one of the goals that we tried to achieve in adjusting that density. Second, we heard find more space for open space within the site. And I think we're almost 3 times the open space. So we've always felt that we've been checking that box adequately, but we took the challenge and I think came back with a plan that responded to other comments, especially around parking at that clubhouse. I will note that the remaining parking at that clubhouse is important for us to keep. That will be where our marketing center is, so we will need parking there. Another thing is that clubhouse will get rented out to residents, or residents will be allowed to use it. I can speak from personal experience hosting holidays at my parents' clubhouse like that. You have to drive there, but when you're hosting something. So we do need that parking space, but we try to reduce it in order to accommodate that comment while increasing the green space. So we try to, in all of these updates, address various comments we were hearing. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I'll cover that as well in just a moment. And then the new condition that we're proposing came up out of discussions that we had. We were connected with some of the neighbors as we were walking out 2 weeks ago, and met with them, and we're hearing that, yes, the traffic study was reviewed, the access was reviewed, it was vetted, but we don't believe it. We still think it's going to be a problem. We firmly believe it won't be a problem, and are willing to kind of put our money where our mouths are and agree to a condition that once the project is at a certain level of occupancy, we'll commit to having a traffic consultant come back out, do new counts, do additional analysis that will then be reviewed by staff and their third-party reviewers, I would assume. And if at that time there are issues, that we would then, at staff's direction, make changes to that. Again, we really, our heart of hearts, don't think it's going to come to that. But similar to where in other instances we've land banked parking on projects, we want to just make sure that we're being true to our word, that we think it's not going to be an issue, and we'll be a good neighbor and fix it if we need to. So that last slide was kind of the update since we last were here with all of you. This is kind of the comprehensive where we were and where we've come to throughout this iterative process for close to a year now, now that we hit September. So that includes 4 reductions in unit count, increasing the capacity with the left turn lanes. Again, Michael will come speak to that briefly. Changing the parking count 3 times, but also trying to listen to where parking is needed, including by adding it on that spur road as well for the city and police department. And then I'll show again that we have to maintain those 28 parking spaces for the private party that has an easement over them. Kind of hit on the open space. We can go through the numbers again, but like I said, I think we're more than generous by 53% more trees, almost 300% more shrubs, almost triple the open space across the site, but while also trying to meet the city's goals of preserving the trees that we want to preserve. And those areas are highlighted later in this presentation. We've cut all of our relief requested. We used to need setback relief. We've now reconfigured the site plan to eliminate that, as well as I just mentioned, increasing that north setback. On the height, we actually were just out there measuring ComEd poles and trees out there. While we are asking for that height relief needed in order to make these units marketable, in our opinion, and what we're seeing out there as far as new product of this type being delivered, given the extensive buffers we have along the residential facing, most residential facing frontages, we think that except for when everything's dead in the winter and you can see everything, there will be pretty significant buffers. The ComEd poles and trees out there right now, many are taller than the buildings we're proposing. We, I think 2 meetings ago, agreed to the public access, and again, that's not just to that top lot, but also to that entire wooded path area. And then I know we had a hard time last time. We have the additional images of the current design of the buildings. We won't go into that tonight in detail, but we have those available if there are continuing questions on that. One other thing that we heard at the end of our last meeting was make sense of this site plan for us. And I think one thing that we realized we knew very well, because we had spent a long time developing this site plan, but maybe we hadn't communicated as effectively as we could have, was just the number of constraints and what we're working with and how we landed at the plan that we landed at. So I'll start on the left-hand side and just go in order rather than jump around, but the access point was very intentionally located with KLOA and the city engineers, as well as with Civil Tech, because we have to locate it in order to allow for that left turn lane and the geography for that turn lane. So that was very intentionally located in its current location. I mentioned that there's a perpetual private parking easement that is pointed to right below that, north of the access point, but noted below it. We're working with that owner and need to respect that easement, as well as some public utility easements on the site that really circle the site on three sides. There's a 100-foot setback covenant recorded against the property, as well as noted in blue at the bottom of the screen, storm drainage ditch that flows across the site to the east that we needed to respect as well. Thank you, Carl. We have our existing operating businesses to the north that we are well aware of and want to respect and try to make sure that we have a minimal impact on them. The railroad directly to our east, and then the overarching goal of carving around as much of the wetlands and native trees as we can. So once you put that blue line that Carl was just going around, take out the red, it really does give us a very unique site to try to design, especially taking into account the exchange or the fire access needs, as well as other safety needs. So that I will turn it over to Terry. He's going to go through the changes in more detail. We'll have Michael go over the traffic findings, and then we'll be available for questions.
Good evening. Again, my name is Terry Smith. I'm a land planner for BSB Design. So I just wanted to maybe take some time. There's Carl and Katie did a great job of kind of going through the changes. You kind of see on the screen, on the plan on the left shows our original site plan of 240 units, and obviously the one on the right with 227 units. The idea here is the reduction of units allowed us to have a significant more amount of green space in our current plan version. Just walking through some of the changes. Now, Carl talked about the original site plan. The prior site plan in the upper northwest corner, past the front garage townhomes, we had 5 rear garage buildings that are kind of in different north, south, east, west configurations. It was a little awkward, a lot of pavement. By eliminating 2 of the units, we're able to simplify the arrangement of buildings, going from 5 buildings to 4 buildings, just running north-south. We're also able to shift those buildings to the south, thus giving us in that location about a 75-foot separation to the north industrial property line. That added benefit of having that additional green space also allows us to get that second dog park, the north dog park, which we think would be a nice feature, given that the original dog park proposed was at the far south end. So that allowed us to provide that improvement. Also, if you look to the right, we still have the separation of 25 feet from that parking lot that juts into the site. But then beyond that, we have a 50-foot we increased the separation from 35 feet to 50 feet along the east side with the 4 buildings. You can also kind of see what we're able to do. It's hard to tell because the club is off the plan, but by splitting the buildings apart, we now have sort of a green connection to the club building as well. There was a comment, I think, somebody talked about how the plan wasn't urban enough, and I think one of the things I wanted to emphasize was that throughout the process, even from the beginning, we we really strive to create a site plan that was urban. And by that, I mean a plan that de-emphasized garages, that emphasized the front doors of the homes, and also sidewalks. There are a lot of sidewalks on this site plan. This plan is very walkable. We do a lot of these projects, and it's very difficult to get clients to invest in the level of sidewalks that we have on this site plan. But another added feature that I think really creates a kind of a nice level of urban design was that by eliminating that swath of pavement that runs along the west and south side of the club, we're able to create that really wonderful northwest southeast green space that runs from the east-west drive in the north past the club down to the end of that cluster of row homes. It's a minimum, it's 50 feet wide from the club to the buildings to the west. And then I think it expands out to about 70 feet or so in the center, and then narrows or tapers to about 40 feet. Other than providing the additional green space, because of that additional green space, we're also able to add an added feature, the additional tot lot, kind of as a focal point in the center of that new green space. Also, the building, the row home, rear garage row home building at the north end, that was one of the buildings where we took a unit off. That allows us, there's a little triangle part that's able to connect to that new northwest, southeast green space. So all in all, we've created a plan with a lot more open space, less coverage. I think we're taking about 40,000 square feet of impervious area off. And there was also another kind of very subtle change. There was a comment about the stack area behind the garages and the front garage townhomes. We increased that from about 18.5 feet to 20 feet from garage door to the edge of the sidewalk. Mike, you want to talk about traffic?
Good evening again. Michael Worthman from KLOA. Per your direction from the last meeting, we went back and reviewed the projected year 2031 traffic volumes from our traffic study to ensure they included Sherwood Elementary School, Red Oak Elementary School, and the West Ridge Community Center. Carl stole a lot of my thunder, but I'll just go through it quickly. I'm happy to report that the volumes in the traffic study include all three facilities. First of all of the traffic counts were performed in October 2024, the existing traffic counts. What we found out, and I made a mistake at the last meeting, Sherwood School did not relocate until February of 2025. So it was open in the fall of 2024 when we did our traffic counts. So Sherwood Elementary School is included in those existing traffic counts. Based on conversations with the city officials and the school district, they confirmed that they did not move the students over until February 2025. Second, regarding Red Oak School, they are also included in the October 2024 counts. However, it's important to note that the school is closing after the 2026-2027 school year. So it's going to be closing and moving to Oak Terrace School, I believe. As such, a lot of that traffic will be eliminated from the area. There'll still be traffic generated, but probably won't be as much as there is now, and will reduce the bus traffic within the area. Our traffic counts included West Ridge Community Center, the existing community center. Talking with the city and the Park District, we found out that the new facility that is under construction is only replacing the existing facility, and all the programming will basically be the same. They're not looking to add a whole lot of programming there. As such, the volume of traffic generated by the new facility is expected to be very similar to what is currently generated by the existing facility. This is not me saying it. This is what I got from the city and from the Park District. In addition, as you've heard, the traffic study was done based on 240 units. Now it's proposed for 227, which is a reduction in 13 units, or approximately 6% in the number of units. The 2031 traffic volumes also included 4% growth in the area. So as such, we're very confident in those 2031 traffic volumes, and they're probably conservative in the fact that they're higher volumes than we're likely to see, given that Red Oak is going to close, and we assumed a greater number of units than that is currently proposed. In addition, just like to indicate that as part of the development, we are going to provide significant improvements, both roadway improvements and pedestrian and bicycle improvements. The separate left turn lanes that we're providing on Old Deerfield Road at Richfield Avenue will significantly improve the operation of that intersection and traffic generally in the area. As you can see on the table on the right, table 1, that the level or the actual delay at the intersection is projected to decrease with 2031 numbers compared to the existing. So that improvement is actually going to improve the overall delay at that intersection. More importantly, all of the intersections are projected to operate at a very good level of service, A or B. And all of this has been vetted, as you've heard, by Civil Tech, and they're in agreement with all of this. One last point I'd like to make. Should I go back to the slide? Or? On the one slide, well, let me put it this way. As you've heard from Katie, we are willing to do a follow-up traffic study once the development is built out. We'll go back and work with the city on what they want to see in the traffic study. But typically, we go back out, do all the counts again, run all the analysis again, look at all of the information and see how things are operating and anything needs to be changed. What we're looking at, if necessary, we can reduce or prohibit signage, left turn movement out of the development if necessary. That's what we'll look at. Apparently, we can't prohibit the left turn movement in due to some easements with other properties adjacent to the development. But overall, in conclusion, the 2031 traffic volumes are correct. Sherwood School was open, Red Oak School was open, the community center was open, and actually Red Oak School is projected to close. And once again, all of the intersections are projected to operate at a good level of service. More importantly, I appreciate your patience over the last 6 meetings. And if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone from the commission have a question for the applicant?
I have a couple.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Fettner.
I have a few questions. My first one is general question. You know, there's obviously, neighbor concern and neighborhood concern as there is, but there's some specific neighbors that are adjacent to the future development. The restaurant owner, right? Has there been any communication? I know, he submitted a letter. He's still unclear on some of the modifications that are going on nearest to his restaurant, worried about impacting the approach. Has there been any communication, any meeting with the restaurant owner? It's important.
Yes, we have met with him. We continue to be willing to. Actually, one of the new conditions that was presented by staff tonight is a result of kind of the latest concern that we had heard, which was when we reconfigure the intersection, he has some landscaping that falls within the right of way. And so he was concerned about the impacts on that. So thank you so much for highlighting it. That was kind of the latest concern we had heard. And so staff proposed this additional condition to address it. So absolutely, I have met with him and are willing to continue to do so.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is around traffic. Yeah. All right, well, thank you for re-reviewing the study and acknowledging that it did include, Red Oak and Sherwood, et cetera. So I have a question on, that you based it up until 2031, right? Is that in 2031 to
Right.
take into account? When you take into account 2031, do you do any possible new developments, like where the old Toys R Us was, or what does that mean, 2030? Because it sounds like you said that traffic's going to decrease at that point. It's like,
Several responses.
how do you look into? I know you don't crystal ball, right?
No. Typically what we do, and this is what most of the public agencies like IDOT, Lake County request, is that we look 5 years approximately after the build out of the development. So that's where we kind of get to that 2031 number. And what we include in that is the existing traffic, and then we layer up the traffic that's going to be generated by the development. And then we add on to that any additional growth in the area. And what we always do is we look at what is the projected growth in the area. And we get those numbers from the Chicago Metropolitan Area Planning, or CMAP. So CMAP has projections for all of the roadways in the area. And they're projecting less than 1% growth per year. And you look at that over a 6-7 year period, it's about 4%. So we add that 4% traffic to the roadway system. So we take the existing volumes, increase them by 4%, and then add the traffic by the development.
So it's just a general calculation.
That's how we do our studies. If we know of something specific in the area, we will include that. But there's nothing proposed right now for the reuse of that building. That 4% will accommodate a lot of that because most of that traffic is coming off of Old Deerfield Road and Toys R Us. I will look at staff, but it's likely they're going to have to do their own traffic study once that's redeveloped. So they'll also look at the area intersections and see if they have to put any improvements in. And when we said a conservative analysis, is that all I'm saying is the 2031 numbers we projected may be a little lower than we projected, just given that Red Oak is closing and we're overestimating the traffic that will be generated by the development. We didn't change it in the traffic study. We kept Red Oak in there. We did it as
something new may go in Red Oak, probably no.
It could. But one of the issues you have out there is you got 2 schools coming in at the same time. So with elimination of one of those schools, you won't have the same surging of traffic that you get, particularly in the morning peak hour. So while something else may go in there, it's probably not going to generate the same traffic volumes as Sherwood is at the same time. So it is a significant change in the traffic volumes there to the positive.
And then just going back to that, the proposed to do a new traffic study once the project is stabilized. What does that mean? Does that mean once the project actually has occupants in there and you have people living there, if the traffic seems a little bit off or not as good as what is being proposed, stop, do a new traffic study, and then maybe no left out? Is that what you're saying? Maybe prohibit from like 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. no left out?
Something like that. Yeah. We'll take a look
I was
at
actually
it.
thinking about, I was going to propose that today actually as an option if.
Yeah. What we like to do is build it, let's monitor it, let's see if it's an issue. We'll work with the city on what the scope and the format of the follow-up study is. And then the developer, Habitat, is more than willing to hire a consultant. It could be me or someone else, but they'll hire someone, they'll run a study, whatever the city wants us to do. And it'll probably be similar to what we've done now. We'll look at probably the same intersections, do the counts, run the analysis, and see if that things are running as we projected or running in a good way. If there's any issues or concerns, we'll work with the city to address those. During the school year.
Okay, right. The school, I think that's the biggest concern of school.
Yeah, totally get it.
And this is a question of staff. How can we enforce that and put that in the approved agreement?
Yes, we can. So here it's in generalized form as a condition for your recommendation to city council, that you please know that more specificity and working with corporation council, we'll put a finer point on that before city council adopts an official development agreement and approval documents, if that's where this item goes.
Thank you. you. That's all my questions. I'll be quiet for a little bit.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
okay. We like the questions.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, Councilmember Ross.
thank you, Chair. Okay, can you hear now? Thank you. Along the same lines, around traffic, I just had a question regarding the Collaborative Community Housing Initiative, CCHI, and 50 units are apartments owned by the families or are being built out. The residents themselves don't drive, but they're, and we've noted, that's been noted in previous PDC meetings, but their family do, the staff do, and so I'm just asking, has that been considered, that although the residents don't drive, they're, they're visitors, they're staff, and yeah.
To a certain extent, yes. The staff and the visitors are probably coming in at different times. They're not leaving at the same time and coming in. So once again, oh, I'm sorry. We're probably looking at a worst case scenario again by assuming them all market rate, for lack of a better word, units. Thank you.
Anybody else on the commission have a question for the applicant? I just have one comment, and I know that you're saying Red Oak School will be closing in 2027, which means that there will be less traffic going to the school. However, those students will be going elsewhere, and I guarantee you a number of those parents will be driving their children to wherever that new school is. So it doesn't completely eliminate traffic problems. There won't be buses going to school, but there will be buses picking up those kids and taking them to another school. And again, their parents will be doing that because they don't think that their children should take the bus. A lot of years in the Highland Park school system, I know how things operate. Okay.
Chair, I
Yes.
have one more.
Sure,
One more
Commission,
question.
Councilmember Ross.
Would it be possible to put the landscape plan back up on the screen? I wanted to ask, and it,
For,
the new landscape, the updated,
you talking about the
Yeah.
the site plan? or
the site plan,
Okay,
yeah, but just this,
okay, let me open that up.
sorry, I didn't think this would take.
Oh, do you? Okay. Going more into the,
Oh, there it is.
there, oh,
Well, yeah. You had it further down, just the full. There, thank you. And I think it's, it's gonna sound like a small tweak and, why bother, except that every little bit helps. The block of RH25 and RH24. And then there's RH in the southern portion. Yeah, right, okay. Now, I just was wondering if had you considered, could you consider RH23, if you broke that in two and put one piece on the end of R25 and one piece on the end of R24, and put, put a green space between the two of them, which would, I would assume, be less costly than putting all that road in there, because you have a similar configuration along the tracks. I wondered, it seems like it would be less expensive to do, but nicer. And as I said, it's a small thing, but it all adds up. In terms of green space.
We'd have to take a look at it, see what we can do.
Just it helps with any, alleviating a sense of density and just the nicer the development is, obviously, not only nicer for the people living there, but people who live in the neighborhood.
Sure.
Benefit indirectly. Thank you.
All right, and does the commission have any more questions? Any more questions from the city council?
No, thank you. And I did want to say that Director Fontaine said it would be reasonable to ask my questions, so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, I'll open up questions for the public. You'll have to come up to the podium, state your name, be sworn in if you've not been sworn in before. And you'll have 3 minutes, and we'll ask you to please keep your testimony to something new to the plan. We've heard all the other testimony, we've read it, we've seen it, but if you have a comment on something that's new to the plan, then you may come up and present it. Talking to the other microphone, I think it's.
Hello. Hi, I'm Lindsay Lurie.
Okay.
I grew up in. Hello?
Okay, and we've sworn you in previously?
Sorry?
We've sworn you in previously?
Yes,
Okay,
I swear to tell the truth.
truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Great.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I saw in the updated, or the feedback from the Park District that was shared earlier about the crosswalk at Devonshire Court.
Mhm.
I cannot remember 100% the recommendations that were up there, but there was something about the crosswalk. And I mean, I ride my bike with my kids all the time down Ridge. And if there is going to be on the east side of Ridge some sort of pathway, because that sidewalk ends a little bit south of there, and just considering also people crossing the street right there at Devonshire, you're coming around, there are so many cars coming around that curve. That is so dangerous to have people crossing the street right at that point. That needs to be something strongly considered. My parents live literally right there, and I can attest to them hearing accidents that will happen all the time. I don't know if there's going to be like a light, like a safety light there that would happen. That would also slow down, all the traffic and you possibly back up traffic there. I think that's something that needs to be considered if you're having this crosswalk from that, from the development to go down to Devonshire Court. All of us, I'm sure every single person, even people that don't live in Highland Park, go down Ridge and come around that curve. And the crosswalk right there, if you were to put a crosswalk right there, it's really hard to see people if you're coming up Ridge towards Old Deerfield Road. So please think of that as a consideration. My other concerns, just a comment about West Ridge not adding new programs. It's actually very inaccurate because they're moving their entire gymnastics program to West Ridge, which is like half of the reason why people go to Centennial now. Half of it's ice skating, half of it's gymnastics. So that is going to add some added traffic to West Ridge. And then also to note, Red Oak, most of those kids are bused there because they come from all different areas of Highland Park as well. So you have bus traffic to think about. That's going to end. You don't have as many cars to think about as much. But I'm concerned that if doing a traffic study after the development happens, how do we make adjustments? Like, Are they gonna then spend another 100, 200 grand on something that needs to be fixed when it could be prevented from the opinions of all the people that literally live across the street and see the traffic all the time? I just, please listen to all these considerations. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Lynn Tatz, and I've sworn in before
Okay, on this
Something.
particular subject.
on the subject.
Okay, can you please spell your last name for us?
TATZ.
Okay. All right, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I saw that the sign, and many people probably have seen that there's a for sale sign on the Solo Cup property right now. And I understand that someone in our community called Habitat, and Habitat said, yes, that the area is for sale because they don't believe that the property, that this proposal is going to go through. So I wanted to check on that. I tried to look up the sale, and I looked at LoopNet and Crexi and Land.com, which are, to my knowledge, the 3 main commercial real estate sites, and it's not listed. So I'd like some clarification.
Okay, we'll take all your questions first and then.
I'm
then
done. That takes care of it. That's what I want to know.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair, if I may just briefly,
Yes.
I wanted, the commission doesn't need reminding, but to the extent that it does, I would encourage you all to just keep your consideration to the standards and not to things that may be irrelevant to the standards, that's all.
Well, I will explain why it's relevant to me. It's relevant to me because if that was simply done in a cynical way, I would feel more concerned about what I'm being told. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we put the timer off?
Okay, and what is your name again, please?
First of all, my name is Kenneth Tess. I have been sworn in before, but I would like to reiterate that I do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. At the July 29th meeting of this commission, the applicant put up that image on the screen for all to view and consider. On the left is an architectural rendering of the proposed townhouse development, and on the right is a Google Earth image of the Chantilly development taken from 400 miles away by satellite. Those images created a strong impression on the commission. I will explain a few reasons why it was not an apples-to-apples comparison. It should be noted that the differences in the visual representation implied that the proposed development would have less density than Chantilly, when the exact opposite is true. First off, why are we even talking about density if the city is going to zone the portion of the property on the Habitat, which Habitat is building on, as RM1? Obviously, it is not about the legal definition of density because it satisfies that. Chantilly is also zoned RM1. So when you show us the comparative photos, you're focusing our attention to density in the sense of how crowded it will feel or look. At Chantilly, there are 193 townhomes situated on 24 acres of land. That simplifies to 8 townhomes per acre. At the proposed development, they're planning for 227 townhomes to be situated on 19.07 acres of land. That simplifies to 11.9 townhomes per acre. When we compare the net density ratios of townhomes to acreage, an apples-to-apples comparison, we discover that the proposed project is 48% more dense than Chantilly. Furthermore, the visual imaging presented to us as apples and to oranges comparison, because the rendering of the proposed development is a dramatically different perspective from the satellite image of Chantilly taken from the 400 miles away. As most of us have seen, images from space radically condense all imagery. So of course the image on the right looks more smushed. When Google Earth gets around to imaging the Solo Cup development, it will be considerably more smushed than Chantilly, in fact, 48% more smushed. In addition, the architectural rendering on the left is improperly scaled. The smaller townhomes are 36 feet deep from front to back, and the larger units are 39 feet deep. I blew up the image on my computer. Doing so maintains all the proportional relationships. I then measured the lengths of their townhomes and noted that units were 20 and 22 centimeters respectively. I then measured the width of Ridge Road and found it to be 30 feet wide in actuality, but it was also 22 centimeters. If the rendering were accurately scaled, all of the townhomes would be 30% larger and the image would appear 30% more dense. In conclusion, I urge the commissioners to reconsider any conclusions you may have reached regarding the perceived density based on those images. The fact is that Solo Cup development is 48% denser than Chantilly. The visual comparisons are misleading for two reasons. The scaling of Solo Cup townhomes is 30% understated, and it is extremely misleading to compare a bird's eye view to a satellite view. Thank you very much.
Please, there's no cheering, clapping, shouting, anything, otherwise it will never get done something. All right, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Miles Rush. I'm a local resident and I have not been sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Right, go through this.
Thanks for the time. It seems like a lot has been said and studied about the parking, or the traffic from Old Deerfield Road south and east, but it doesn't sound like anything has really been done as far as Richfield west from there. And as a resident of Sherwood Forest, I'm just curious as to if that has been taken into account or if it will be taken into account. Traffic on Richfield is already very dense. The first woman who spoke may have alluded to it a little bit. I wasn't exactly sure the area that she was talking about. But if that has not been taken into account, I think it's very important that traffic study or some consideration be made to traffic on Richfield that would be moving west from Deerfield Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Ann Flanagan-Bassey and I have not been sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Chair, can we get a spelling of the last name?
B-A, S as in Sam, S as in Sam, I as in India. Good evening, and thank you for giving me a few minutes. Also, thank you for the incredible effort and time you put into volunteering to help make our community a great place to live. My name is Ann Flanagan-Bassey, and I've been a Highland Park resident since 1973. I represented Highwood and Highland Park on the Lake County Board for 10 years. And we dealt with a lot of land use issues, and we all understand they're complicated and they're difficult. But we have to recognize that landowners have the right to get an economic benefit from their property in compliance with zoning. And my concern, I worry that if this proposal were to be denied, the current industrial zoning could result in a less desirable use with no need for zoning changes. Traffic is always a concern. I didn't read all 165 pages of the traffic study, but I read a lot of it. And, you know, the widening of Deerfield Road, improving the access off Deerfield Road, 70 feet further south, it seems to accommodate the traffic volumes. And I think that the additional questions that have been asked are being addressed. I think we need to remember that Solo Cup operated with over 600 employees per day at that site, plus the semi-truck traffic for deliveries and shipments. And as far as I'm aware, didn't create a traffic bottleneck or concern. The Solo Cup proposal, as recommended by the Housing Commission, provides housing in our community for a range of families, including some affordable workforce housing for local businesses such as Jewel and Bluegrass and other local businesses. The gap between housing costs and wages has widened exponentially since I was lucky enough to be able to move to Highland Park back in the 70s, way back, first as a renter and then in a position to purchase a home here. This development by Habitat, as recommended by the Housing Commission, has fewer than the allowed number requested under the zoning. I believe the development will be an asset to our community, and I really thank you for supporting this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Kaufman. I have not been sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, like Ann, I want to thank the commissioners and also Council Liaison Ross and city staff for my time. I served on the city council for 10 years and previously served on commissions as well. And so I have a great appreciation and understanding for the amount of time and thought you all have been put into this. And thanks to all these residents for showing up. This is one of the beautiful things about our community is that people care. And speaking of that, one of the hallmark features of our community is that we have a real commitment to progress, to moving forward, and to meeting our community's needs. And certainly there's a need for additional housing. That's a good thing. It's a really good thing that people want to move here, people want to stay here, and that this would bring on 227 units. I understand that traffic is a concern. When I was on the city council, traffic was often raised as a concern whenever a development was raised. Here, I think we have a couple of things to keep in mind. One is that there has been a traffic study and an updated traffic impact study. The due diligence has been done. There's also been a commitment to do a follow-up study. Second is when we considered developments that were approved by the Planning Commission and then the council considered them, many people would come up with a parade of horrible things that might happen based upon their understanding or thoughts about the traffic implications. And usually what happened is that those were not borne out in reality. We have many developments in Highland Park that have been thriving and contribute greatly to our economic development and community vibrancy, where there were concerns raised about traffic, but really they turned out to not be realized in actuality. So here, I think the due diligence has been done. I would urge everyone to exercise some restraint in terms of the concern about the parade of horribles. Again, a follow-up study will be done. And I think here we need to meet the moment and meet the need. This property has remained vacant for far too long, and it's within our community's fabric and hallmark feature of our community to try to contribute to meeting the needs of our community, moving forward, meeting economic development, community vibrancy. This would be good for those who live here, who work here, and who do business here. And thank you so much for your time. I urge you to approve this development. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Gulata, and I have been sworn in before.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the progress that's been made since the last meeting in reducing density and increasing green space. Those are 2 of my major concerns. My 3rd major concern is safety, which still remains a concern for the area. The traffic study that we were all just quoted as happening in January and Sherwood being closed in February is not true. Sherwood did not close until January 21st, or Sherwood moved on January 21st. So I would ask when the January traffic study was. If it was January 20th, which was MLK Day or later, Sherwood would have already been moved. I live in that area. We use Ridge Road every day too, and it's already scary to cross Ridge Road with little kids. So I would like to see from the committee and the city council further mitigations on improving traffic control or reducing density so we don't have the problem of so much traffic off the get-go. I know at the tail end of the last meeting we had, there were some suggestions being made about how to make the crosswalks more visible. And I don't feel like we saw any of that in today's plan. So I would strongly urge if that's something that can be done, it is needed. The crosswalks that already exist today get largely ignored by the traffic, both from the neighborhood and from people coming in. My concern is if this is a rental unit, we're going to have people who might not be familiar with the area and are going to be ignoring crosswalks, so they need to be very visible. The other fact that I wanted to comment on was the West Ridge Center. It is indeed being developed for new use. They are relocating the gymnastics facility there. And I just want to quote something from the Park District website that says the new rec facility at West Ridge will include a 10,000 square foot gym, which is more than twice the size of the existing studio at Centennial. The new space will enable the Park District to increase programming capacity and serve a much wider diversity of participants. So we are going to have more traffic from West Ridge. So in conclusion, my summary is, can we please go less dense? And can we please do more to improve traffic safety? Thank you.
My name is Gary Greenberg. I am a citizen of Highland Park.
All right. Have you been sworn in for this matter?
Pardon?
Have you
I
been
do.
sworn in previously?
Yes.
Okay. You have 3 minutes.
I do understand everybody's concern about traffic, but I think there's a bigger concern that we could have a factory there and not a housing development. The area is way more practical for housing than it would be for a trucking company. The people that might have lived here when Solo was there were many, many more trucks. There was much more traffic than there is now, much more. So if you're thinking that it's going to be better with the trucking company, I can't understand your thoughts. If you're looking to better our community, the townhouses will definitely give more money to our community. It'll give tax money to our community. If we don't do these things, we're going to end up not having taxes paid from that property, and your taxes are all going to get raised. Somebody's going to need to pay the taxes that property produces. I don't want to be the one to have to pay those taxes. To me, it'd be better to get taxes and business. Downtown, Jewel, all the stores, all the restaurants on the corner there have many more people if there's more people in the community. And that's my feelings.
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Cole Morgan. I was sworn in last time.
Okay, great. You have 3 minutes.
First of all, I'm confused about the height variance. I think that the original zoning called for 35 feet, and now it says, now we're up to 43 feet. I don't think 6 feet variance adds up to 43. I'm just wondering about that. That was one of the conditions that said, well, 42 feet, 11 inches, but that's essentially 43 feet. So I'm confused about that. Second of all, I don't think anyone from the community is asking that this property not be developed. No, we don't want a trucking facility. And yes, we're glad Solo is gone, but we're wanting much less property or density on this property. We hope that the commission is actually representing its constituents, which are the people of the west side. And if this project would not be permitted on the east side, which it wouldn't be, not at this density, why is it being allowed by us? And finally, the traffic is important for all the things that people have said in terms of the Red Oak, something will go there. Toys R Us, something will go there. The new Park District building will be used. Someone said last time, we didn't need a traffic study for that. Well, there's going to be more cars there, obviously. And if there is a 4% increase in that the gentleman said before about the traffic study, how is it that it's going down in 2031? I don't know that 4% is a decrease, it's an increase. So those statistics are being modified to placate us, I think. I don't think that's accurate because as we all know, being on 41, the traffic has increased. And on Richfield, someone just mentioned in the neighborhood, the traffic has increased. And finally, also at this meeting last time, somebody on the commission said, but we can't worry about the Toys R Us property. But now is the time to worry about that being developed because that will also increase the traffic in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was sworn in last time.
Okay. Can you
A few
repeat your
times
name though,
ago.
please?
Katie Casas, CASAS. And as before, I'm going to just address, there was listed before a conservation easement. I didn't necessarily see that drawn out before. I'm not sure if that's still an intention. Okay. Again, I would hesitate to just look very carefully at what's in those covenants for whatever conservation easement is in there. You can have anything from a tennis court to a pool allowed in there if it's allowed in there. So you can shake your head, but if you put those things in there, those things are allowed. Just because you say conservation easement doesn't mean it stays forever a green open space unless you designate it as such. Along with that, I actually feel like the green space you said was increased, but it looks like the canopy was greatly decreased. So I don't know if you're intending to take out more trees. I guess just from the diagram, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Your canopy looks greatly reduced. Also, dead trees do have a great space in the ecosystem. They're called snags, and certain animals and fungus and insects actually rely on it. So you said you'd be taking down, you kind of, I think, drawed out that 78% of the trees are being preserved, but 47 of those are going to be dead trees that you're taking down. I mean, again, I understand that to most people, they say, okay, great, dead trees. And also not all trees are created equal. As I said about the planting landscape, if you just put in grass, that's fabulous. That is technically very minimally green space. It is also quite different than native plants, which would benefit in the long run. You don't need to water them as often. They're drought resistant. They have really, really deep roots. You see about 2/3 underground, what you see above ground. So all of these things really make a difference. So it's not always just quantity, it's quality. So I will once again say that I would be happy to provide, obnoxiously so, a native landscaping list if you'd like. But all of these are considerations and they make a difference in the long run of the plan. So once they're done, it's done. If you can kind of take that all into consideration, then we have a really great plan, because I agree. I don't think the whole idea here is to stop all development. It's to do it so that we don't regret it later.
Thank you.
My name's Dan Wagner. I have been here before.
Okay.
Just very quickly, 2 points, things I want to point out. That there are 6 different schools that could be sending school buses through this development. So how's that gonna, it's already, I have 2 school districts going right in front of my house. And that's just the elementary schools. And also the question is, will the police department K-9 be able to use the dog park that you have right off of their parking lot? That's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Petrick, and I have not been sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and can you spell your last name for our minute taker?
Petrich.
All right, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
I thank you, the commission, for hosting this meeting. I also thank whichever person put the flyer in my mailbox for this meeting, because even though it was mentioned, this has been well publicized. The last I heard was that we were debating trucks being placed in there. So I was glad to know of the new plans. And so I'm here this evening to learn more about it. I appreciate the gentleman who presented his concern regarding the drawing to scale. I still have some concern regarding density. So I think reviewing the initial proposal and how it's being drawn to scale comparatively is important. I also agree with the comment regarding the traffic study of, I'd like to know when in January it was done, and is it an average of October and January numbers? Because it does seem that it'll go up. I agree Westridge will bring more traffic to the area. We haven't stated if it is residential, similar to what the gentleman just said, which districts, whether it's Deerfield or Highland Park, these students would attend, because currently on Ridge Road, the students in those areas do go to Deerfield schools. We're closing Red Oak partly due to decrease in population. As a member of the local community, I know we have a lot of baby boomers who love Highland Park. Why leave? Because it's a great place to live. I think that might change in the next 10 to 15 years, where more families will come in with younger children. We might have one less school if Red Oak closes. And if they're planning to have a tot lot park here, I'm assuming they're going to be marketing to families. So where would those children go to school? And would that change our needs to re-examine our current housing for kids? In addition to the affordable housing, I'm curious to know if any partnerships might be proposed with I don't know the name of our program that we have for the federal employees of the areas, like the police, the fire. There's a affordable housing project that they can apply for. And I'd be curious to know whether or not there's any possibility of having some of the homes used with this program for purchase, or if it's going to be strictly all rental. And making sure those were all my comments. And there was a mention too that there might be changes made to the police property itself, and I was unclear as to what that was. Those are all my concerns.
Okay, thank you. We will, maybe Carl can pull up the changes to the police department property after we're all done getting questions, and then we'll go back and answer the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Tarnoff, and I have been sworn in before.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My comments tonight center on the zoning aspect of Habitat's application. Habitat has applied for split zoning, partly RM1 and partly R7. However, since Habitat intends to develop townhomes, it's relevant to point out that the City of Highland Park zoning code R7 specifically cites townhomes as a permitted use. The residents of the neighborhood, including those who travel on Old Deerfield Road every day, and property owners on Ridge and Grove whose homes border upon or face the site, are in favor of townhome development on this site. Support for townhome development is a clear preference among those living in the neighborhood. However, the R7 zoning category provides defined limits on density, building height, minimum setbacks, which I understand from tonight's presentation have now been increased, and fencing. These requirements are not arbitrary. They were established in our zoning code and enacted into law for specific, well-considered reasons. R7 is compatible with the existing R5 and R6 of the surrounding neighborhood. Habitat's split zoning application seeks a greater density than allowed under R7, along with zoning relief from requirements regarding height and fencing, all of which are exceptions to the established R7 limitations. While the community supports townhome development at this site, its support is based upon the standards set forth in Highland Park's zoning code requirements regarding townhomes. The sole justification we have heard presented to date for granting the split zoning and other zoning variances is to make the project profitable, with the suggestion that Habitat might walk away if such relief is not provided. I respectfully submit that A, profit alone is not a sufficient basis for granting significant zoning variances, and B, based upon public articles regarding recent townhome developments in both Northbrook and Deerfield, it appears likely that there may be other townhome developers that would be willing to develop townhomes at this site in compliance with the R7 zoning requirements. Therefore, I urge the City of Highland Park Planning and Design Commission to recommend denial of Habitat's rezoning and plan unit application unless this commission can negotiate a reduction in density that's at least closer to the amount that would be allowed by R7 zoning. And one last question for the members of this commission. If any of you have some rationale other than profit as to why Habitat should be permitted a density that's nearly 30% more than the city's R7 maximum guideline for townhomes, please explain it to us. Tell us what it is. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to stop here and have our department explain the R7 to RM1, because I think there's a misunderstanding. There are no townhomes going into the R7 portion. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. That's not proposed. Just a couple of comments. One, we do need to consider the entire acreage.
You cannot hear you.
I apologize. We do need to consider the entire acreage of land. The entire property is before you, not just the portion that has the townhouses proposed. So I just want to keep that in mind. I understand there's comments about the density within the area of the proposed townhouses versus overall. The property is its entirety, not just one portion.
One piece of property.
Correct. And that's how we apply zoning throughout the community. That's common, and that's in all jurisdictions. So just keep that in mind. Yes, they've clustered the development in the portion of the property that they showed. The reason why there's a lot of development challenges to developing elsewhere, from covenants that have been put in place by the city, from heritage trees, from wetlands, and from the desire to have buffers to the neighborhood, to the west and to the north. They increased the buffer from the north property line as well. So I just want to make sure that the commission understands that there's a reason why it's set that way. What the density is, that is a question before the commission. They are not building to the maximum density under the RM1, but that density that they are proposing is greater than what would otherwise be allowed under R7. That is correct. So those are my comments on that, Madam Chair, and just
Thank you.
go from there.
Okay, did you have a question? All right, why don't you come up and speak, and then we'll get to answering the rest of them.
Hi, Martin Karp. I have been sworn in before.
Okay, welcome back. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. First of all, I'm encouraged that we're not putting a distribution center there, and encouraged that we are putting proposed housing in that location. So I think that's a good thing. I have no problem with the Habitat companies and what they're trying to accomplish. There's just a couple of things that I think are a major concern, and obviously a major concern of many people in this room, and that's why they're coming to these meetings. And it's the impact on traffic, and we're talking about pedestrian traffic, we're talking about bicycle traffic, and obviously we're talking about vehicular traffic. And while density to me is not that important, as far as I'm concerned, they could have 2,000 units there. It impacts all those other factors. And some things, it just, as a person who's a pedestrian, I live on Ridge Road, who's a pedestrian there, who drives there, who cycles there, who used to, when I had a dog, used to walk my dog there. Some of these things don't pass the smell test. One thing that was put up tonight about putting in left turn lanes was going to increase the traffic throughput by 100%. That doesn't pass the smell test. Let's face it, you only have a certain amount of lead up into the left turn lanes. We don't have an infinite left turn lanes. So you have the same people coming off the same lead ups to the left turn lanes. So 100% increase in the throughput is just not realistic. And then changing topics slightly, having to do with density. In past meetings, there is the issue of public school impact. The number that was thrown out there when there were 240 proposed units was 82 students into the public school system. that doesn't pass the smell test. You're saying, now you're not going to be having retired people or empty nesters moving into those units. I'm making a generalization. It's probably going to be families or people starting families. So the fact that we're talking about only roughly 1/3 of those units, adding just one student into the public school system just does not pass the smell test. So these are the issues I wanted to bring up. Thank you for listening, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick Balnick. I have been sworn before.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
I do support the development, but with fewer units, and there's 3 points for me. One is when you are trying to head north on Route 41, you're taking your life in your hands because cars are coming headed north, heading from the south. With a lot more traffic, it is a lot more dangerous. 2, I am very concerned about the residence that is being built at Richfield and Old Deerfield, which has developmentally disabled and mentally ill residents, concerned about the amount of traffic. And lastly, I want to echo the very first person who spoke. The crosswalk onto Devonshire will be extremely dangerous because the cars coming from the south are curving, and you don't have much notice that there's going to be a crosswalk there. So it may be a minor point to many people, but when you live on Devonshire Court, it's a very serious concern. So I just want to re-echo that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else from the public have a question?
Hi, Sandra Lurie, I've been sworn in.
Okay.
I just want to make a few points. It's been said we've had 6 meetings, and that's a lot of meetings, but how many meetings is too many to get this very special piece of land correct for future generations? I live across the street on Devonshire Court, so for me, this is quite personal. I believe, as Mike Tarnoff said, this is too many units. I had a very, very nice conversation with Zach Zeller. We talked at length. He's a lovely guy. We talked about all of the concerns, right, Zach? And what I came away from is, despite them being very nice people and reputable, that it doesn't feel that they are willing to really look at the whole picture and negotiate it down to a reasonable semblance of density for this property. I'm not particularly happy that they're rentals because, as I said once before, I think when you own something, you're more invested in the community. Am I in the microphone? And something that BSB said, is it Terry from BSB? And he was correct. He said in calling this good urban design, and it is good urban design, and it would be great in the West Loop, but it's not good suburban design. And that is part of my problem because they spent all this time and money developing this property for a suburban neighborhood. Why didn't they develop it to fit within the parameters that exist as the code says? If it's profit motive, I understand that, it's financial. And everybody's entitled, to do that. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with it being across the street from my house and being so dense. I think that's pretty much it. I know you have a letter that I submitted regarding the Devonshire Court crossing and how dangerous it is. So I won't, reiterate that, but it's a very, very dangerous spot to put a crosswalk.
Thank you, and I know we talked about that last week as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, does anybody else from the public have a comment before we get to answering some of these questions?
I said one question.
Okay, Come on up.
Wait, so that means please do not approve this as it is proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, it's Henry Goldman. I have not been sworn in.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I'll ask you to speak into one of those two microphones on your left. And can you please spell your last name for our minute taker?
Sure. Goldman. My question was with the entrance and exit points to the. Sorry. Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My question was regards to the entrance and exit points to the development. It's just as a point of clarification. Will there be just one access point to the development? And where will that be? So.
There's multiple, there's at least two, so there's Carl's gonna bring up the picture and he'll show you where they are.
Oh. Okay, that's fine, I'll find one moment, please.
So my understanding is one point is like across from the police station on Old Deerfield Road, a little bit south of there. And the other one is along that access road to the northeast. So Carl will point those out right now.
Right, so there's two primary and then there's a third, so to speak. So the primary is here on the west side across from the police station. Then there's another access point on the north point of the access spur road that runs along the railroad track. And then you see it does also connect right here to this extension of Richfield.
Is that just for service or for residents and guests?
These are, this Richfield Road is a public.
No, the one along the railroad.
Well, there's a condition of approval. Staff has stated that for construction, this only be used. And as a condition of approval, staff has said that any type of delivery vehicles going to the site just be limited to using this road.
So the
Otherwise, all the
residents,
residents will be able to use it freely. Otherwise, all the residents will be able to use it freely.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. Oh, yeah, in the public, yeah, the applicant is also. Yeah, the applicant's proposing as part of their public benefit, because this is a private part of their property. They're proposing this be a easement for public use for ingress and egress, as well as parking spaces.
So would that be, that's for vehicle access as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you. All right, anybody else from the public? And then we'll try to get the questions answered. Okay. The first question is about whether there's a for sale sign up on the property. That is not really for the Plan and Design Commission to consider. If the applicant has something they wish to say about that, to answer our citizen, that would be wonderful.
Sure, we're happy to. As we've noted previously, the applicant is not the current property owner. It is our understanding that we heard that current property owner did put up a sign. We are still under contract to buy the property. Any phone calls would not have gone to Habitat though, because we're the contract purchaser. We want to buy the property, but we currently are still under contract. The only contingency that would prevent us from closing would be not getting the zoning approval. So we are otherwise completely teed up to close once the zoning is approved, and there is no condition either that would let the seller out of closing with us. Again, we're down to that final zoning contingency, but again, we don't we don't own or control the site. We didn't post that sign. We would not be answering any phone calls, and our hope is that we ultimately are the buyers.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps your traffic person can come up and speak to the traffic going west on Richfield Road. Specifically, I believe, after it would pass Deerfield Road. I think that was the concern.
Yeah, the study area went to Deerfield Road and Richfield Road. So we studied that intersection. We did not study the road, Richfield Road, west of there. We're not expecting much of our traffic to travel west on Richfield Avenue.
Okay.
And more importantly, we are adding a crosswalk on Richfield and Carvel. Thank you.
Yeah. Cavell.
Carvel, right. Thank you.
Okay. Carl, there was a question about the height variances.
Oh, yes, I had that in my
And
notes.
so if you could pull that slide up.
Yep.
There was some confusion.
Yep, so yeah, there was a question about that. I also had that in my notes. So just very, very quickly to go through this. So I think the comment was, I think it was related to so the applicant is asking for up to 3 to 6 feet of height relief. So the RM1 maximum height requirement for the townhome units is 35 feet. And the applicant is asking for up to 3 to 6 feet of height relief, meaning from 38 to 41 feet. That is as grade and height are defined in the zoning code. And of course, we've talked about this at prior meetings. That is as grade and height are defined, and there are specific exhibits in the packet and prior packets on that. And so what that condition gets to, this condition locks them into the elevations they submitted. Now, why are the heights higher on here? Well, because one of the measurements of height in the code is it's measured to the mean distance between the top of the roof and the bottom of the roof, usually where the eaves are. And so, but the actual peak height, if you just are standing there and looking at the building, the actual peak height from the grade adjacent to the foundation to the peak height of the roof, at highest, it goes up to 42 feet and 11 inches. So that's why that's the condition, because that locks the applicant into what they presented before the commission.
Okay. Do you want to show us the slide from a little further down that had the heights?
Sure.
That one there.
So these were in prior presentations.
Yes, but maybe some of our people did not see it.
So this was a prior presentation, so that this kind of explains how the grade, generally speaking, goes down. It's highest on the north end and lowest on the south, generally speaking. And so the highest relief is on the north, up to 6 feet, and then the assembly furthest south has relief up to 3 feet. And so on the top there is on the north, and as you go down to the bottom right, that's on the south end of the property. These are the elevations here that reference that you have. The one on the left would be like the furthest south assembly, and the one on the right is the highest up on the north. And then these are the elevations that were included in the packet 2 weeks ago, and my report, referenced and hyperlinked to that. And that shows, here it shows a maximum peak height of 42 feet and 9 inches, and here's the 42 feet and 11 inches. And again, there's a difference between just what a layperson would look at, that's the highest height, versus how our zoning code defines it, where it's at that midpoint of the roof.
Okay, thank you. There was also a question about, or a comment about using sustainable plantings and native plantings. Can you give us an indication of how our planning department and forestry department reviews the plants, and if they have a list they're working from?
Right, so that's a condition of, a staff recommended condition of approval that if this proceeds to final, this is the third to bottom bullet point, the applicant must provide species inventory for plantings. And so if and when that's provided, if this comes for final, the city forester reviews that and makes their recommendations on what's appropriate, or, et cetera, what's an invasive or not, et cetera.
So the check is there's certain invasive species are not allowed. So that's one of the aspects of the review.
Right, thank you. Okay, then there was a question as to whether the police department would be using the dog park. Is the dog park private? That's what I thought. The dog park was private. It is the tot lot that is going to be allowed The
Correct.
southernmost tot lot was going to be allowed by the to be used by the public.
That's our understanding, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I defer to the applicant, though, and I believe they've nodded yes.
You come up and say that in the microphone. I like to hear them right.
Zach Zoller with the Habitat Company. Yes, your assumptions are completely correct.
Okay, so the dog park is private. Tot lot is not private. Okay. And you would be okay if we put in a condition stating that the tot lot needed to conform to our park district rules for equipment and such? Okay. Would your traffic person like to speak to the comment we had toward the end that having the left turn lane will speed up traffic by 100% through the intersection?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
I think what we said is we're adding a lane, so we're increasing the capacity by 100%, but sorry, I thought it was. As we showed on that slide, we are reducing the overall level of, delay at that intersection. So it is a great improvement. To what extent, I don't know what
Okay,
percentage.
so basically what the math was, when you add an extra lane, that increases the number of lanes by 100%.
Yes.
That's what's being
Yes. Thank you for
improved
clarifying
by
that.
100%.
And just one more clarification.
Sure.
All of our traffic counts were conducted in October of 2024. I don't know where anyone's getting January from, but our counts were done in the fall of 2024, and the school transitioned in January, February from the information I got. One other correction before it comes up. I worked with Carl and Joel last week, and they're the ones that reached out to the Park District, and that's where I got the information regarding the changes in West Ridge Community Center. So we got it directly from the Park District officials that they're not expecting much change in traffic with this. That's where I got it from.
Chair, could I also
Yes.
comment on that? And eventually I was going to comment. I was just waiting for the appropriate time. And so I've been put on the spot and I will. So
Thank you.
I spoke to the Park District last week. As you may recall, the Park District came in with the West Ridge project. They came in for an amendment this year and they came in last year for the original SUP. And so I spoke to the Park District, and yes, they talked about the change in programming. They definitely brought up the gymnastics program to me. They talked about the seasonality of the different type of programming they do. They also talked about how they're losing administrative offices. They're not going to, the new facility is actually, programming is changing. They have the gymnastics facility, but they're also losing the administrative offices. And they told me unambiguously in their blunt assessment, their traffic generation and parking is generally going to be the same as what it is now. That is what the Park District told me.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there was a comment about the public school input. If we're looking at 82 students, I mean, I'll say what was said last week and what's in the packet is that the school districts have reviewed the project and have no comments. Is that correct, Carl, to state that?
Say that again, the school districts?
The school districts have reviewed the project and the potential for more students, and currently they don't have any issues with it.
That's correct. And in the packet, Dr. Lubelfeld did have a memo where he states neutral to the development, right? There was no objection.
Okay. And, you know, if part of the school district feeds to Deerfield, that doesn't really concern us.
Not necessarily the commission, no. I mean, and the school districts were, all three that are impacted were sent the plans at multiple phases through this review.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other comment if I
Oh,
may, Chair.
please go ahead.
So just so the commission is aware, so the proposed crosswalk at the intersection of Devonshire Court and Ridge Road, which is essentially the connection for the development to Devonshire Court and then to the park down that road. So staff has specifically put this to the engineering division to review. I don't have that response yet. I put it to them last week, but just the commission should know that will be reviewed and comments will be provided on that. if the commission does have concern about it, they can certainly make that a condition as well. That, if it wasn't appropriate, then it'd be struck from the plans or altered as appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
That's all part of final engineering review.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Carl,
Mr.
has any consideration been given to putting a pedestrian overpass at Devonshire and Ridge Road?
Not by the city. No, not by the city. I think that the turn on that road is about 250 feet away from that intersection. Speed limit, and then depending on the speed limit, we'll have our engineering division take a look at that. And of
was
course,
just
as part of
curious
the
if-
final engineering, those types of things are taken into account, both the type of crossing that it is, the paint used, signage, all of it.
Great, thank you. Yes, because then we'll have details and a detailed analysis by then when that comes back. Okay. Any more comments by the commission?
I had one more question.
Oh, please go ahead.
There was-
Commissioner Imchuck.
There was a question about the tree canopy coverage and whether that had changed at all from previous iterations. I think it might have been from the slide where the prior site plan with the 240 units was next to the current site plan. And it shows just more granularity on where the trees are planted on the site is my read of that, but it looks like there was a massive amount of tree canopy on the prior site plan and that is now not the case. So I just wanted to ask for clarification or verification that the tree plantings are just more like defined and articulated on the site plan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're just being depicted differently, but the numbers are staying the same and it's just more detailed in the newer one as it's continuing to evolve.
It's worth reminding that they are exceeding the tree and shrub planting, especially the shrub planting by like almost 300%. So. And that we did review, we've reviewed this with the city a number of times that, specific key and heritage trees are being saved by the placement of the buildings on this piece of property. And we know that is an important thing to Highland Park citizens as well. So we are trying to balance all these things when we make these decisions. Okay, so we are at, Carl, could you pull up the findings of facts? And Carl, before we go to findings of fact, is there anything else from the public that came into you via email that needs to be addressed?
So there was one public appearance form in the packet from Michael Laxner. He did tell me by email that, I don't want to misquote him, but he told me that we didn't have to
Read it.
do his public appearance. He said, he says, I will not need to cross-examine the traffic consultants. As I stated in my case in my written testimony, you can ignore my appearance form request at this time.
Okay.
So that was the one public appearance form in the packet.
Okay, thank you. So that can be read by everybody. All right, so here we are at the draft findings of fact. I do feel the commission needs to make some kind of decision on this tonight, so do you have included in the findings, do you have those conditions or do we need to put those up as a separate slide?
So I have all the conditions in the findings of fact except for two, I believe two are discussed. One just, about the crosswalk and that the city's engineering division needs to review the safety of that crosswalk at Devonshire Court and Ridge Road. And then also the Park District comments about the standards for the top lot. Otherwise, all the other conditions are in the findings of fact.
Okay. All right, so commission, where are we?
all the conditions that were on the PowerPoint are in the findings of fact, except for just the two that were discussed this evening about the engineering division has to review the safety for that crosswalk at Devonshire Court and Ridge Road, and then the Park District's comments about the standards for the tot lot.
So would our condition regarding the crosswalk, will we state that it must comply with what the engineering department, the traffic engineering department recommends? Is that how we would handle that?
I would just say that it needs to be looked at for traffic safety for final recommendation at the final engineering stage of the proposal. Because remember, this is preliminary, and then it will come back for final with the fully engineered plans, and so that's when those changes would be made or not. And if it's not safe, I don't think that the commission nor the council would want to do that. And so that would be an acceptable change to make.
Okay, agreed. Okay. So commission, where are we with these zoning requests? I think if we're gonna motion, we probably, Marcus, we need to accept the whole findings of fact at once, correct? Since it's written that way?
Right, well, this would be split into two votes. The first one would be, as you usually do, adoption of the findings of fact. The second vote would pertain to the design review, over which you have final authority.
Okay. Could you repeat yourself into the microphone? Some of our citizens cannot hear.
Yes, two votes. First one goes the way you usually would, adopting findings of fact as proposed and with any changes. Second one is a direct vote on design review.
Okay, thank you. So can we get a motion for the, we would need a motion to adopt the findings of fact for approval of this project?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend, to approve the findings of fact recommending approval for PUD 20250041 for a special use permit in the nature of preliminary plan development rezoning to RM1 and R7, preliminary plat of re-subdivision, design review and modification from the city code for a 227 unit residential townhome development at 1660 and 1700 Old Deerfield Road, inclusive of the conditions enumerated and adding the crosswalk to Devonshire, subject to recommendations from the engineering division, as well as the tot lot complying with the standards recommended by the Park District.
And that's adoption, not approval of the findings of fact, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Fetner. Any discussion?
There's one condition that Carl or someone had on around potentially a berm.
Did we want to discuss a berm? You're right, I'm sorry, that was at the very beginning. Are we okay with the landscaping plan set out by the applicant for the north end of the property? Which is in that 50-foot zone over there on the northeast, the 25-foot zone in the middle, and the 75-foot zone on the northwest side. I believe there's an 8-foot fence there, and there'll be some amount of landscaping in there. Do we need to require a berm? Is there something else we wish for? I mean, I feel like it's up against industrial, so maybe it's probably fine with the fence, but I don't know, what do other people think? Or do we want to hear from the applicant?
I know we discussed berms at some point this year. Would it be, I'm assuming it's not required in this setting. I don't remember all the facts of when we discussed it.
That's correct. This is technically does not require a berm, but when you're looking at these types of areas, these are the things that you look at, the landscaping, the fencing, and whether a berm might be appropriate. Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, I think it would be a benefit to the residents to have a raised landscaping buffer, but there's a reasonable setback. And I don't know how it would affect a dog park.
Yes, there is a setback and a fence, and I presume landscaping along there.
That's right, Chair. What currently was proposed in the last landscaping plan was an 8-foot-high solid fence along the north property line.
Okay.
And right, there's landscaping. That was however, it was depicted in the landscaping plan from 2 weeks ago.
Okay, no, it's a solid fence.
A solid fence.
Okay, we have.
I'd just like to make the comment that
Please
it
do.
may get more use if it doesn't have a berm, and it will be landscaped, so it could be an area for use.
Okay, thank you. I'm fine with the way it's proposed.
Do we know what landscaping would be proposed along that northern boundary?
This was a change that was made on Monday, so we haven't had it completely designed by our landscape architect, but it would be in compliance with city requirements and be part of the fully engineered package.
Carl, could you illuminate us about what the city requirements would be?
For the landscaping along here?
Yeah.
So staff's recommendation had been an 8-foot-high fence along the north property line, and the applicant did provide that, a solid type fence. And then for landscaping, well, the landscaping requirement is a function of foundation plantings and vehicular use plantings. And so the applicant, and then there's a calculation for how much landscaping is needed that just has to be distributed along the foundation and along the vehicular use areas. And so the applicant exceeded those planting quantities that were required and distributed them along the planting areas, except for that variation they asked for the foundation. But long story short, here along the north, really it just comes down to that. Yeah, it's a discussion point. Really, it gets to the PUD, the standards that are with the PUD, and what the commission feels is desirable.
Staff discussed all three things with the applicant in terms of those types of things that are in buffer areas or setback areas between uses.
I think it would be, if it's not required, it sounds like it's not something that you would stipulate in terms of like what number of plantings, the spacing.
Yeah, but there is,
what
if I
type.
could be clear on that, there is no specific code requirement in this instance for what has to be for landscaping right along the property line. The landscaping is more about what's at the foundations and what's along drive aisles and parking areas.
Yeah, I would like to propose that we require landscaping along that northern boundary to make sure that there's sufficient screening for the residents, and also just beautification in terms of having, a fence there versus some nice plantings. Maybe, I don't know what would fit there, but maybe something like a little bit taller would be nice.
Madam Chair, in the past, there's been some specificity with regard to planting, things like that, with regard to types of buffers like these or setbacks like these. So, we've had things of, 12-foot high arborvitaes. You should think about that as well as deciduous trees so that you have a mix of both, perhaps. Those arborvitaes obviously serve as good visual buffers year-round. We've had some success with those larger installs in other projects, and they do serve the purpose well, in addition to the fence.
Okay, and we're not calling out anything along any of the other fences, correct, for this project?
The other fence is along the buffer area, the open space area. That's an
Right.
open type fence, not a solid board fence that they had mentioned for along this particular area. So I, defer to the applicant. Is there other fencing that we should be made aware of? I believe that there's fencing along here. That's the 8-foot high fence. And then on the Ridge roadside, we have an open type fence that's decorative. Is that correct?
Yes, my name's Tom Blank with Habitat Company on the project.
Okay, you have to speak
We
into the
have,
microphone.
we have a fence that occurs along the railroad,
Yes.
along the north property.
Okay.
They're 8 feet tall. In front of that is a landscaped area with trees and bushes, as well as the 4-foot planting around the foundation of the house. Along the back side of the townhomes that face the forest wetlands area, we have an ornamental iron fence. It's open with verticals and horizontals. That's 6 feet high. And that just simply separates the private yard area of those homes from the forest preserved area.
Okay, thank you. I guess I don't feel a need to call out a specific landscape requirement along the fence. I trust them to appropriately sprinkle a good mix of the trees and whatnot along there.
So this is the, if I can open from their landscaping. I know, but I had to snip it in here real fast. So their landscaping plan is the largest file. It's the one that's hardest for me to manipulate because it's the largest file they have. And so I just, really quick, this is from the packet from 2 weeks ago. And so this is a snip of the landscaping that's proposed along the north property line.
So presumably that would stay then, correct?
Right.
That's correct. That will stay that way. We just shifted the houses down, couldn't bring in the level of detail.
I mean, yeah, so staff had a condition, so obviously this plan has to be harmonized if this proceeds. This plan has to be harmonized to match the current site plan. And obviously staff will report, if this does proceed to council, staff will report if the landscaping changes in quantity or not. And that's what was proposed 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So that would be the landscaping along that buffer area there. And so,
Okay, so we are here with a motion on the table with 2 conditions that were added. And any more discussion on this before we call a vote?
I'd like to speak to the motion.
Okay, please do. Commissioner Henry.
Thank you. We've all been working overtime on this application. In fact, I asked the mayor for a raise for the commission. She said we'll get twice as much as we got this year. But in all seriousness, we've come a long way since the package was first presented to this commission. I think everybody around this room, at this table, in the front row and back rows, have all spoken with truthfulness and sincerity. And to the applicant's credit, they have made a number of adjustments in response to what they've heard from both the public and the commission. And I think that is something that Highland Park can be really proud of, because we really work hard to try to make this happen for the entire city, not the east side, the west side, the north side, the south side, as I said at the last meeting. This is for all of Highland Park, and I can assure you that all my colleagues at this table, and I've sat at many of these tables over the years, is doing what they believe to be in the best interests of the city of Highland Park and its citizens, and at the same time trying to do something that is appropriate, proper, and in the best interest of the city in terms of this property, which has been sitting fallow for many, many years. God only knows we can use the tax revenue that might be generated by it. Nobody wants industrial on it. Maybe it would have been nice if the city or the county or the state had said, we'll buy it and turn it into open space. That's not happening. So it seems to me that the best use of this property is residential. And traffic's an issue, and it's an issue now, as we've heard from everybody who's appeared before this commission over these past number of months. Traffic is an issue. There's only so many things that we can do with respect to traffic, or we can recommend to the city council that they can do with respect to traffic on this property. What concerns me, frankly, is the density. We've talked about RM1 and R7. R7, yes, does provide for townhouses, but it's much less dense than RM1. And so the first thing that really is the point is zoning change from industrial to an RM1. That is the condition precedent, as lawyers like to talk about it, to anything else that's going to happen. Because without that zoning change, which may or may not be recommended to the city council, Habitat doesn't get the density that it believes it requires. And I'm not going to second guess that. That's not our job. But I do feel, as I look at this and I've listened to all the testimony and read through pages and pages of documents, I am just not convinced that the density is appropriate for this property. And therefore, I'm not in favor of the findings of fact and moving this forward to the council.
Would you please allow us to deliberate without extra comment? Thank you.
It's a live studio audience.
It's a live studio audience, I get it. Okay, Vice Chair Kirch.
I think anybody who heard me speak 2 weeks ago probably knows how I feel about this project. But is any one of us going to be satisfied if we walk out of here tonight having approved this? Does any one of us really think this is the best we can do? It just strikes me as, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that let me just get to the findings of fact that I do not agree with. That this rezoning is justified. I don't believe it is. I don't believe we've heard enough testimony that says RM1. I don't even know why it's 3 zoning districts, but I have not heard enough testimony that says RM1 is the best use for this site or the most suitable redevelopment opportunity for this site. Number 2, it's still an enclave, and our zoning code specifically frowns upon enclaves. I understand the difficulties in developing this site, but you took it on, and it's your burden not to make it an enclave. And I cannot do that to the people. Again, we deserve better. That's what I'm saying. The traffic is an issue. We've had testimony on both sides, right? I think it's easy enough to question whether those traffic studies this time around really have captured what's going on in that neighborhood. I have a very uneasy feeling about that. A lot of this could be alleviated by reducing the density. And I think a more apropos proposal, if I'm reading the room right, in the room over the last 6 meetings, but that the site would probably be better zoned R7. And I think that would make a lot of people more happy. I honestly wish we would have taken up the zoning question separately before we got into a fait accompli with what's been presented to us under the assumption that it's going to be zoned this way. But I'm still a little sad that we're not going to get a nice mixed-use development or something. I can dream up a lot of better stuff for this site, and I just, again, it's too dense. It's an enclave. Oh, and the public benefit parking spots and paint on the street are not a public benefit commensurate with the relief that's being sought here. On all these points, I cannot find these facts, recommend these findings of fact. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any more comments on the motion from anybody else in the commission?
I'd like to make a few comments, just because last time we gave some direction to the applicant. And I think what they came back with, and in my opinion, they made some good concessions. They reduced the setbacks, added green space. And, the traffic report, that was something that I was concerned about, for the proposal to come back and say, okay, first of all, the traffic study, now it did include Sherwood and Red Oak and West Ridge. And it sounds like city staff and our consultant, Civil Tech, did consult and go back and forth and have, and make sure, we have to depend on city staff and our consultants. I'm not a traffic study engineer. And I trust them, and our staff's amazing, and I trust if they're going through it and they're having discussions and they're working with the consultant, that I have to believe that what they're giving us is accurate. But what is really swaying me is that I didn't want to have to drive by there and see the development and see a whole backup with traffic. Traffic backs up on Ridge anyways, but I didn't want to see it 2 or 3 times worse. And for them to say, well, you know what, we're also going to do a secondary traffic study if we see that traffic's problematic. And what we can do is we can offer restrictions, no left turn, no right turn. That's giving me a better peace of mind than what I saw a few weeks ago. So, I agree with some of my colleagues say, I disagree with some of my colleagues say, but I feel a little bit better today than I did 2 weeks ago, that's for sure.
Thank you. Any more comments from the right? Oh, we got comments.
I'll jump in.
Sure. Commissioner Nance.
I want to thank the applicant for, finally coming around to listening to us and taking in, some of the feedback from the public and from my colleagues on the dais, polling tables. But this has come a long way. My concerns have always been around just trying to make this the best place for the residents, both surrounding the neighborhood and within the development in itself, and with the current changes and the reduction in the number of units and the redesigning of the central park area, and also having the peace of mind, as it's been noted down the table around the traffic study. I'm leaning to move forward with this proposal. I think it's checked a lot of the boxes that I have. Is it perfect? No. Is anything ever going to be perfect? No. I'm always going to have my issues, but given the site, the constraints of the site, and where we started and where we've gotten and how much time we put into this, that's what I said.
Thank you. Commissioner Inject.
I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Fettner and Commissioner Nanis just said. I appreciate the rethinking that has happened around the site plan and the density after being told last meeting that the site plan couldn't be rethought. I think this has some good solutions to some of the things that we've talked about. I really do like that the area to the west and the south would be preserved and open to the public. I think that's a huge benefit. And hopefully it would be stewarded and maintained in a way that allows it to have higher quality as a natural area. And that gives a lot of benefit to the surrounding community and also buffers some of that density from the surrounding community, at least in the summer when the trees and the plantings are big. And I do appreciate the improved the site design and how there's a little bit more sort of like regular grid and connectivity within the development. Although I do agree that it still does have the flavor of an enclave since it doesn't have a lot of connectivity external to the surrounding neighborhood. But on the whole, I think this is a good compromise, and reducing to R7 would reduce a few units, but I think people would probably still be upset if it was R7 and it was a similar proposal. So to me, I agree with Commissioner Nanis. This checks a lot of the boxes. I would probably be on the side of moving this forward as well.
Commissioner Mantis is wagging his finger.
I never like to be the only one that doesn't talk, so. This is hard, right? I think Commissioner Henry said it really well when he said that everybody comes at this with the best of intentions, and I think that that's right, and I appreciate the discourse that we are able to have both collectively in this room and kind of inform in terms of formulating our recommendations to City Council. I don't want to miss the opportunity to once again state that I think that there needs to be a comprehensive master plan redone, and I want to direct that to our council liaison and really urge the council to reconsider that, because it makes our job so much more difficult when we've got a 30-year-old plan, when good master plans are updated every 10 years by my understanding. This site is particularly difficult. We've talked about the zoning. We've talked about step-down zonings. We talked about going from R6. The thing that we have not talked about is on the other side of this, you have I zoning, which is the most permissive zoning that our code has. And so RM1 actually does feel like a decent buffer in between the intensity of those zoning districts. And so, to Commissioner Nanis's point last week, I don't want to let perfect be the enemy of good, and I think that this is a good proposal that solves a lot of problems with a site. To me, housing here makes a lot of sense, and I think, again, this country in general and this area is facing a housing shortage, and this is our way out of that. And so for that reason, I think, I'm certainly supportive of this, and I'm excited to see this get built.
Thank you. Before we take our final vote, I do want to say appreciate the applicant for coming back again and again and making concessions and making changes that address some of the issues we had. Yeah, it's a wacky site. Even if it were like a mixed use development, we're still going to have all the traffic problems because you can't drive across the tracks. You can't enter onto the highway from there. I don't know what else we're going to do to provide more access and less of an enclave feel. And I do think that we have pushed this to be the best that it can be at this point. And I am in favor of it. I know it's hard to hear that. I feel that we do need to do something with this property. It's been a long time. And, to let it go and have something potentially more difficult come in, we would just be going through this all over again. So this is something I can live with. I drive by there all the time. I use the businesses over there all the time. So it is something I can get behind. Are we ready to call the vote? All right, so Director Fontaine, please call the vote.
Commissioner Inchik.
Aye.
Commissioner Fettner.
Yes.
Commissioner Nanis.
Aye.
Commissioner Henry.
No.
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Nay.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. This item is recommended to City Council as a preliminary plan development with rezoning and design review. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. As you exit,
We need to
I'm sorry, we need to do the
I said
design
design
review.
review.
Not design review, excuse me. Apologize.
So,
We
we
have to
still
vote
have
on
to
the
vote.
design review. Wait, folks, before you leave. Madam Chair.
Okay. We still have to vote on the design review, so if you're leaving, that's fine, but please keep your conversation to a minimum so you leave the building, because otherwise the sound filters in here and we cannot finish. And we want to give every project all the attention that we can give it. All right, so next up for the design review, we did see the designs in previous presentations. We commented on them and changes were made as necessary, but I think the time has come, we need to vote on that as well. So can we get a motion to approve the design review?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Does anyone have a discussion on the design review? Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner,
Aye.
Commissioner Fettner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nanis,
Aye.
Henry,
No.
Mantis,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hirsch,
Nay.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The motion carries and the design review is approved. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Moving on to other business. The next item is an information item. Is there any administrative design review update?
No update this evening.
Okay, thank you. The next meeting is a regular meeting on September 16th, which is next week. That will be back in our tents. Okay, I'm sorry. Do you have something to tell us about the next meeting?
If you would like, I can certainly tell you what will be on that agenda. That agenda will include. Okay, we will have a design review and sign package for 791 to 799 Central Avenue. We'll have design review and a sign package amendment for 1200 Old Skokie Road. We'll have a plat of consolidation with variations that was already approved but expired, and so it's a resubmittal of the same thing for the Acura dealership on 2699
I was wondering what was happening there.
and 2745 Skokie Valley Road. We have the continued planned development for 4 townhome units at 932 and 942 Deerfield Road. We have the Second Street PUD for the 5-story 19-unit multifamily development that was continued to that date. We have the PUD amendment for the 2000 Skokie Valley Road that was continued to this date. And then lastly, we have the planned development for the car dealership at 250 Skokie Valley Road that was continued to this date. So we continue to have lively agendas.
All right, that'll keep us busy. Do you have a case briefing at all?
Madam Chair, there was a minor amendment that was approved last night to 425 Bloom to swap one affordable unit for another location on site. That was approved, and there's a transfer assumption agreement approved there as well for that property. There was also a consideration and approval of the recommendation related to timeshare related uses.
And that was approved, you say?
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Okay,
Chair, I was just going to share that to Commissioner Mantis's question about the master plan. We're on the verge, I hear, of going out for an RFP to firms to help us with a master plan.
thank you. Okay, is there any more business from the public? Come on up.
Okay, well, I just wanted to,
Please state your name again.
Sandra Lurie.
Okay.
I just wanted to note again about that Devonshire crossing. What happens to that now? Where does that go from here?
Okay, so Madam Chair, this section of the agenda is for items not on the agenda. However, I understand that the resident has a question, and with your indulgence, I can answer that question.
That would be wonderful.
Okay. So the engineering division of the city will take a look at that as part of a specific look at to that as part of the final design for the improvements in the public right of way. That happens typically anyway, but there's been a lot of scrutiny and concern about that particular crosswalk. So there'll be extra particular scrutiny and focus on that crossing.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so does that happen before, so let's say this goes to city council and it gets voted yes. Let's just, okay. Because this still has to go to the city council for
That's,
approval,
that's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And that will happen before the final engineering. So what we need to receive, this is a preliminary consideration. It will go to council. And then final engineering plans will be developed. And that's where that analysis will happen. If there's a safety issue, as always, we reserve the right to do what we need to do in our right of way. So there's nothing here that binds anybody, the city or otherwise, to anything that isn't deemed safe.
Okay, and
so I
that
just wanna
wouldn't
make-
happen until the development was
final.
approved by the council. Is that
Until
accurate?
the final approval of the development, which is based on final engineering, correct?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public needing to speak on a new item? Okay. All right, in that case, I would move to adjourn the meeting. All right, we need a motion to adjourn. the
Motion to
meeting.
adjourn.
Second, third, fourth, okay.
Aye.
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 All in favor, aye. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.